You thought you were done with that chapter of your life. You told yourself the distance made you stronger, that the silence made you safer. You built a routine that didn't ask questions, didn't poke old scars, didn't need anyone. And then, on an ordinary New Year's Eve morning, your phone buzzed, and everything you buried started breathing again. The message wasn't dramatic. No apologies, no explanations, just careful words, spaced politely, like someone afraid to step too close. An invitation home. After years of nothing. After years of pretending, you didn't notice the gap where a family used to be. Your hands shake as you read it. Not because you miss them, but because your body remembers what your mind keeps denying. You read it again and again, each time hoping it will feel smaller. It doesn't. You tell yourself you've moved on, that you're not that person anymore, that the past doesn't own you. But your chest tightens anyway, because pain doesn't disappear just because you stop talking about it. It waits, quietly, patiently, and the moment it called by name, it answers. You remember what it felt like to be pushed out, not loudly, not with a fight, but slowly, through disappointment and distance. Conversations that stopped, doors that didn't open, love that came with conditions you didn't understand until it was too late. You learned early how to survive without warmth, how to become self-sufficient, how to act unbothered while something inside you kept asking why you weren't enough to stay. So now you sit there, staring at that message, asking yourself the questions you swore you were done with. Is this a trap? A performance? A way to ease someone else's guilt? Or is it something rarer? A chance to finally say the things you swallowed for years? You don't trust it. You don't trust them. And if you're honest, you don't fully trust yourself either. Because going back means risking the version of you that learned how to survive alone. It means reopening wounds you stitched together without anesthesia. It means standing in rooms where you once felt invisible and pretending you're fine. And the scariest part isn't that they might hurt you again. It's that they might not. It's that you might feel something you worked so hard to shut down. You pace. You argue with yourself. You remind yourself how far you've come, how independent you are now, how numbness feels like control. You say you're strong enough. You say this doesn't matter. You say it's just one night. But deep down, you feel it. The quiet warning you try to ignore. This invitation isn't about celebration. It's about confrontation. Still, you type back. Your reply is short, neutral, safe. You accept, not because you're fearless, not because you've healed, but because some part of you is tired of running from unanswered questions. Because some wounds don't close until they're seen. Because even after everything, there's a part of you that wants to know if home still exists, or if it was always just an idea you carried alone. As you send that message, a strange calm settles in. Not peace, not relief, just clarity. You sense that this night will change you. Not gently, not easily, but honestly. Whatever waits for you there, you know one thing for sure. The life you built to avoid the past is about to collide with it. And once that door opens, there will be no going back to pretending you were never hurt. You step through the door just before sunset, and the light hits the house the same way it always used to, soft, tired, familiar. For a second, your body reacts before your mind does. Your feet slow down. Your chest tightens, because this place hasn't changed. And somehow, that makes everything worse. The paint on the walls is the same shade. The air smells the same. Even the quiet feels identical. But you don't. You walk in carrying years that don't belong to this house anymore. Years of distance, of learning how to live without looking back. And now, every step feels like you're trespassing in a memory that no longer recognizes you. Your mother reaches for you first. Her hug is tight, too tight. Not warm, not gentle. It's the kind of hug that says, don't leave again. Her arms hold on like you might vanish if she loosens her grip. You don't know where to put your hands. You don't know how long to stay there. You feel her shaking, and suddenly you're the one steadying her, even though you're the one who was pushed away once. Your father stands back. He nods, says your name like it's something he hasn't practiced saying out loud. His eyes drift to the side, like meeting your gaze might open a conversation he doesn't know how to finish. You tell yourself not to take it personally. You tell yourself he's always been like this. But old wounds don't care about logic. They remember tone. They remember distance. Your brother steps in with a smile that feels rehearsed. He claps you on the shoulder, asks about work, about the drive, about anything that doesn't matter. His voice is friendly, but it's guarded, like he's playing a role he agreed to without knowing the full script. Your sister looks relieved when she sees you, genuinely relieved, but there's nervous energy behind it. She keeps glancing around, like she's afraid of saying the wrong thing too soon. And that's when you notice it. The pauses. Conversations that start and then quietly die. The looks they exchange when they think you're not paying attention. Sentences that trail off, right when they get close to something real. The air feels thick, like the house itself is listening. Waiting. You sit where you used to sit. You look at the same corners, the same door frames, the same scratches on the furniture. And the memories don't come gently. They hit without warning. Laughter you forgot. Arguments you tried to erase. Moments when you felt small and didn't understand why. You thought time would dull them. You were wrong. Time just taught you how to live with the noise turned down. You realize then, you're not just here for a reunion. This isn't about holidays or tradition or starting fresh. Something is being staged. Carefully. Quietly. Everyone knows it except you. And that awareness makes your spine straighten. Makes you alert. Because you've learned what it feels like to walk into a room where the truth is already sitting there, unspoken. So you tell yourself to stay calm, to observe instead of react. You've survived worse than awkward silences. You remind yourself you're not the same person who left. You don't need their approval. You don't need to explain your life. You repeat that in your head like armor. But silence is weight. And in this house, it presses down harder than any argument ever did. Every quiet moment feels intentional. Every smile feels measured. And you start to understand, whatever brought you back here isn't going to announce itself loudly. It's going to reveal itself slowly, through hesitation, through tension, through the way everyone seems to be holding their breath. You thought walking back through this door would feel like returning. Instead, it feels like standing on unfamiliar ground, surrounded by people who know your past, but not who you've become. And as the sun finally disappears outside, one truth settles deep in your chest. You may be home, but you are not safe here yet. And whatever is coming next will not let you stay a silent observer for long. You sit at the dinner table with people who share your blood, and yet it feels like you're eating among strangers who memorize your face from an old photograph. Plates are full. Food is warm. Everything looks normal. But no one eats the way people do when they're at ease. Forks hesitate. Chewing is slow. Every sound feels louder than it should, because everyone is listening for something that hasn't been said yet. Small talk fills the gaps like cheap filler. Questions about work. Comments about traffic. Jokes that land a second too late. Smiles appear on cue and disappear just as fast. You nod. You answer. You play along. But inside, you can feel it. This isn't a meal. It's a performance. Your brother speaks a little louder than necessary. He leans back, arms crossed, and casually mentions how hard those years were for everyone. The way he says it matters. Not angry, not sad, just tired, as if suffering was evenly distributed, as if whatever happened back then was a shared burden, not something that crushed you alone. He never says your name. He doesn't have to. The implication does the work for him. You feel it immediately, that old familiar twist in your gut. The rewriting of history. The quiet shifting of blame. No accusations, no facts, just a reminder that pain existed on all sides, which somehow makes your pain smaller. Less specific, easier to dismiss. Your sister's hand shakes. Her spoon slips from her fingers and hits the plate with a sharp sound that cuts through the room. Everyone freezes for half a second. She laughs it off, apologizes too quickly, but you see it. She's not just nervous. She's scared. Of the conversation. Of where this night is going. Of what might come out if someone pushes too hard. Across the table, your aunt watches you. Not with anger. Not with distance. With pity. Her eyes soften when yours meet, and something about that unsettles you more than blame ever did. Anger you can fight. Pity assumes the story is already over. That you were broken by it. That you lost. You look down at your plate, and without warning, your mind drags you back to the night everything fell apart. The night you were forced to leave. The accusations that came out of nowhere. The way decisions were made without you in the room. How you were blamed without proof, without defense, without a chance to speak. You remember standing there, realizing the verdict had already been decided. Not because of what you did, but because of what was convenient. You remember how quiet you were. Not because you agreed, but because you finally understood that explaining yourself wouldn't save you. Silence was the only dignity left. Someone changes the subject. Someone laughs. Glasses clink. Life moves on at the table like nothing is wrong. And that's when it hits you. This isn't about healing. If it were, someone would have said the truth by now. Someone would have asked how you survived after being pushed out. Someone would have acknowledged what was taken from you. Dessert is served, sweet and careful, like an attempt to soften what's coming next. And suddenly, you see it clearly. The invitation, the timing, the tension, the rehearsed kindness. This wasn't about forgiveness. Forgiveness doesn't come wrapped in silence and strategy. This is about control. Someone wants something from you. Your presence here isn't accidental. It's necessary. You weren't invited to be welcomed back. You were invited to be positioned, to be reminded of your place, to be nudged into agreement before the real conversation begins. And the truth, you can feel it now, is sitting right at this table, heavy and patient. It's in the way everyone avoids your eyes, in the way they soften their voices like you're fragile, in the way the past is mentioned but never named. You stay quiet, not because you're afraid, but because you're finally paying attention. You're no longer the person who reacts on instinct. You're the one observing the game instead of being played by it. As you push your plate away, one realization settles deep in your chest. You didn't come back here to be understood. You came back because someone thought you were still easy to manage, still unsure, still desperate for approval. They don't see what you've become yet, but they will. The clock inches toward midnight, and the house feels tighter with every passing second, like it knows something is about to surface, like it's been waiting years for this exact moment. You sit there pretending to listen, pretending to be calm, but your body doesn't believe the act anymore. Your heartbeat is loud. Your shoulders are tense. The past is too close now to ignore. And then the lights go out. Not slowly, not gently, just gone. The room drops into darkness, so sudden it steals the air from your lungs. Someone gasps. A chair scrapes the floor. And in that pitch-black second, your mind betrays you. It drags everything back. The shouting. The accusations thrown without proof. Voices raised, then cut short. The silence that followed. Heavy, final, unforgiving. You're back there again, standing alone, realizing that no one was coming to defend you. The darkness doesn't feel new. It feels familiar. When the lights flicker back on, the room looks different. Exposed. Fragile. And before anyone can speak, your grandmother collapses. The sound of her body hitting the floor snaps everyone into motion. Chairs topple. Someone calls her name. Panic replaces politeness instantly. All those careful masks drop at once. Your mother screams. Your sister kneels beside her, hands shaking. Your father stands frozen, like his feet are glued to the floor. And you don't move right away. You watch, because this is what truth looks like when control slips. Messy, loud, unplanned. As you wait for help to arrive, the room fills with raw noise. Crying, whispered prayers, accusations about who should have noticed something sooner. And then your aunt breaks. Not loudly, not dramatically. Her voice cracks in a way that makes everyone stop talking. She says your name. Not gently, not carefully, just honest. She says this never should have been on you. That things were twisted back then. That the story everyone agreed to wasn't the whole truth. Her words fall into the room like broken glass. And suddenly everything hurts more. Your heart starts pounding so hard it feels like it's trying to escape your chest. Pieces begin connecting, small moments you ignored, details that never made sense. The rushed decisions, the way everyone avoided specifics, the speed at which you were blamed and removed. It wasn't about what you did. It was about what was easier. Your brother reacts instantly. Too fast. His voice sharpens. He tells her to stop, says this isn't the time, that it's not fair to bring up old things now. His defensiveness is louder than any confession could be. You watch his jaw tighten, his eyes dart around the room, calculating damage. Your mother is crying openly now, but she still won't say the words. She keeps shaking her head, like denial might still work if she holds on to it hard enough. Her silence is different this time. It's not ignorance. It's protection. And that's when it hits you. The truth wasn't buried to forget it. It was buried to protect someone else. Someone whose life would have fallen apart if the real story came out. Someone whose mistakes were easier to pin on you than to face themselves. You look across the room, and you know, you don't need anyone to confirm it out loud. The way your brother won't meet your eyes. The way your mother's tears come with excuses instead of answers. The way your aunt looks at you now, not with pity, but with regret. It all points in one direction. The room feels unbearably small, not because of the chaos, but because the truth finally has nowhere left to hide. You feel anger rise, but it doesn't explode. It settles. Heavy. Focused. You understand now why you were invited back. Why forgiveness was never mentioned. Why the night felt staged. They didn't want reconciliation. They wanted your silence again. Your agreement. Your willingness to carry what wasn't yours. But you're not that person anymore. As the sirens approach in the distance, one realization anchors itself deep inside you. The past didn't break you. Being lied to did. And tonight, the past didn't come back to haunt you. It came back to speak. And this time, you're finally listening. They move your grandmother away, voices lower, tension still clinging to the walls like smoke after a fire. Everyone exhales, but nothing feels lighter. You can feel in your bones now. The truth is close. Too close to ignore. And that's when Uncle Rashid touches your arm and quietly asks you to come with him. You follow him down the hallway, away from the noise, into a small room that still smells like old books and dust. He closes the door gently, like he's afraid the truth might escape if he doesn't. He doesn't sit right away. He stands there for a moment, staring at the floor, as if deciding how much damage honesty is about to do. Then he starts talking. He tells you about years ago, about a decision that was made in fear, not wisdom, about your brother, about a choice he made that crossed a line the family could never admit to publicly, a mistake that would have stained the family name, shattered reputations, and changed how everyone was seen. And when the fallout came, fast and ugly, the family panicked. They needed a solution, and you were the easiest one to sacrifice. Uncle Rashid's voice stays steady, but his eyes don't. He tells you how blame was quietly redirected, how stories were adjusted just enough to point away from the truth, how your silence that night made it simpler, how no one had to fight you because you didn't even know you were being erased. Your parents chose silence over honesty, not because they didn't love you, but because they loved the idea of peace more, because protecting one child felt easier than facing the shame of the truth, because they believed you'd survive it. You don't feel anger right away. You feel nothing. The words land, but they don't explode. They sink. Heavy. Cold. You think about every night you questioned yourself. Every time you replayed that moment, wondering what you missed, what you did wrong. Every sacrifice you made to rebuild a life alone. Every time you told yourself maybe you deserved it. All of it was built on a lie. You thank your uncle without recognizing your own voice. You step back into the hallway, and the house feels unfamiliar now. Not haunted, just exposed. Like the walls finally gave up pretending. You walk straight to your parents. They know before you say anything. Your mother's face collapses the moment your eyes meet hers. She doesn't ask what you were told. She already knows. Her hands tremble as she explains herself, words tumbling over each other. She says she thought she was protecting the family, that she believed time would soften the truth, that she never imagined how deeply it would break you. Your father speaks next. Slowly, carefully. He admits what no one ever expected him to say out loud. He was weak. He didn't know how to fight the consequences. He chose the quiet path. He chose not to choose you. You listen to all of it, and something inside the room changes. Not because of shouting or tears, but because of your calm. You don't raise your voice. You don't accuse. You don't even ask why. You simply stand there, absorbing the reality that the people who were supposed to protect you decided you were expendable. That calm scares them. They were ready for anger, ready for heartbreak, ready for a version of you that begged to be understood. But what stands in front of them now is someone who already did the grieving alone, someone who already learned how to live without answers. You tell them you understand why they did it, and you mean it. Fear makes people cruel in quiet ways. Love, when twisted by shame, becomes cowardice. Understanding doesn't erase the damage, but it explains it. You don't scream because screams are for people who still hope to be saved. You don't cry because you already mourn the loss of the family you thought you had. Instead, you tell them a truth they avoided for years, that what hurt most wasn't being blamed, it was being abandoned. It was knowing that your pain was acceptable as long as everyone else could keep pretending. The room is silent when you finish, not the staged silence from dinner. This one is raw, earned, and as you turn away, one final realization settles in your chest with absolute clarity. The lie didn't define your life. Surviving it did. And the calm you carry now isn't emptiness. It's strength they no longer recognize. Because you're not here to be forgiven. You're here because the truth finally caught up to them. And you're strong enough to walk away holding it. Midnight arrives without asking if you're ready. Outside, fireworks tear through the sky, loud and reckless, celebrating beginnings that feel like they belong to someone else's life. The windows rattle with each explosion, flashes of color lighting up the room for a second at a time. Everyone cheers somewhere in the distance. Countdowns end. A new year begins. And right here, in this house, something finally collapses. You feel it before anyone speaks. That internal shift, like the last thread holding the past together, just snapped. Your brother clears his throat. He can't sit still anymore. The truth has cornered him, and he knows it. When he finally speaks, it's not trembling. It's controlled, measured. He admits what he did. He explains himself. He uses words like pressure, fear, mistakes. He doesn't say sorry. Not really. Not the way someone does when they've carried guilt. He talks because he has to now, because silence isn't an option anymore. And that's when it hits you. He never planned to confess. If the truth hadn't surfaced tonight, it never would have. If your grandmother hadn't collapsed, if your aunt hadn't broken, if someone hadn't cracked the script, this moment wouldn't exist. This confession isn't courage. It's damage control. You look at him and realize something sharp and sobering. This was never about making things right. It was about easing their conscience, about clearing the air just enough so everyone could sleep again, about ending the discomfort, not the injustice. The fireworks keep going. Cheers, laughter. Somewhere, people are hugging, promising change they don't yet understand. And inside you, something finally lets go. Not anger, not hatred, expectation. You don't feel the urge to shout. You don't feel the hunger for revenge you thought would come. Instead, there's a quiet clarity spreading through you, steady and undeniable. You see it now, how revenge would still keep you tied to this night, to this table, to these people. How anger would mean they still own space inside you. And you don't want that anymore. You want freedom. Freedom from replaying the past. Freedom from waiting for apologies that won't come the way you deserve. Freedom from hoping they'll one day become braver than they've ever been. As the noise outside reaches its peak, you look around the room one last time. And for the first time, you don't see villains. You see broken people. People who chose comfort over courage. Silence over truth. Image over integrity. Your parents didn't destroy you because they hated you. They did it because they were afraid. Afraid of shame. Afraid of conflict. Afraid of being exposed. And fear, when left unchecked, makes people betray the ones who trust them most. Understanding that doesn't excuse what they did, but it releases you from carrying it like a personal failure. This wasn't about your worth. It never was. The clock keeps ticking forward, indifferent to everything that just unraveled. Midnight has passed. There's no dramatic pause, no cinematic silence, just the quiet aftermath of honesty finally spoken too late. And you realize something powerful in that moment. The old version of you would have begged this family to choose you, to see you, to fix it. The version standing here now doesn't need that anymore. You don't need them to fall apart to feel whole. You don't need revenge to feel strong. You don't need their regret to move on. What you need, what you choose is distance. Not born from bitterness, but from clarity. You can love people and still walk away from the damage they refuse to take responsibility for. You can understand their fear without letting it define your future. As the last firework fades, the room settles into an uncomfortable quiet. No one knows what to say next. And for once, that's not your burden to carry. You breathe in slowly, deeply, not because you're trying to calm down, but because you finally can. Midnight didn't give you a fresh start. It gave you an ending. And as you stand there, watching the final sparks disappear into the dark sky, you know this with absolute certainty. The past no longer owns you. You're not walking into the new year seeking justice or closure from them. You're walking into it choosing yourself. And that changes everything. You don't storm out. You don't rush. You don't make this dramatic because you don't need to prove anything anymore. You walk to the room where your bag rests and begin to pack with steady hands. Each folded piece of clothing feels deliberate. Final. Everyone watches from a distance, like sudden movements might shatter whatever fragile calm you've created. This time, you're not being pushed out. This time, you're choosing to leave. Your sister follows you first. Her voice breaks as she asks you to stay, just for a little longer, just to give them a chance. She tells you things can be different now, that the truth is out, that this can still be fixed. You look at her and see sincerity. You also see fear, the fear of what your absence will mean now that everyone knows why you left in the first place. Your mother comes next. She promises change, real change. Her words are urgent, almost desperate. Like if she says them fast enough, they'll become true. She tells you she'll do better, that she sees you now, that she never meant to lose you. You believe she means it in this moment. And that's what makes it hurt in a quieter way. Your father stays where he is, silent again, not angry, not cold, just unable. You don't wait for him to speak this time. You already know his pattern, and you've stopped needing him to be someone he's never shown you he could be. When you zip the bag shut, the sound echoes in the room. It feels louder than shouting ever could. Everyone freezes. This is the moment they hoped wouldn't come. The moment where apologies aren't enough to keep you anchored. You turn to them, and your voice is calm when you speak, steadier than you ever expected it to be. You tell them you forgive them, not because they earned it, not because it fixes what happened, but because carrying resentment would keep you tied to this house long after you've walked out the door. You explain something they don't want to hear. Forgiveness doesn't mean returning. It doesn't mean pretending the damage didn't happen. It doesn't mean putting yourself back into the same place just to make others feel less guilty. Forgiveness, for you, is choosing not to let their fear continue to shape your life. Your sister cries openly now. Your mother's shoulders slump, like the fight has finally left her. Your father looks up for a brief second, and in that glance you see regret. Real regret, but also the same hesitation that cost you years ago. You don't wait for more words. There's nothing left to clarify. You pick up your bag and walk toward the door. Each step feels lighter than the last. The house already feels smaller, like it's shrinking back into what it truly is, a place that holds memories, not power. At the door, you pause, not to look back in anger, but to take one last breath. This isn't running. This isn't escape. This is release. When you step outside, the night air feels different, cleaner. The weight you carried for years isn't gone, but it's no longer crushing you. It's behind you now, exactly where it belongs. You realize something as the door closes softly behind you. The past only owns you if you keep giving it permission. And tonight, you took that permission back. You stand a little taller. Not because you won, but because you're no longer shrinking to survive. You feel lighter, not empty, not numb, but free in a way you've never known before. You didn't leave in silence this time. You left with clarity, and that makes all the difference. The first days of a new year arrive quietly, almost suspiciously. The world outside is celebrating, but you're somewhere else entirely, inside your own mind, walking through a space that feels unfamiliar after so long. No one calls. No one checks in. The silence is heavy, but it's different from the weight you carried before. Now it's calm, intentional, yours. You sit in the same room each morning, letting the light creep in slowly, noticing details you never could when the past was pressing down on you. You remember moments you thought you'd erased. Not vividly, not painfully, just clearly. Each memory comes with a label you never allowed yourself before. Truth. Not story, not accusation. Truth. You replay the nights of betrayal, of being blamed, of standing alone, but this time without judgment. You see yourself, younger, scared, desperate for understanding. And instead of anger, you feel something new, compassion. You want to reach back, not to change anything, but to tell that frightened version of you that survival is not shameful. That strength isn't born from approval. That hope can exist even when the people who should protect you fail. You realize something important. The betrayal shaped you, yes, but it didn't destroy you. Each lonely night, each sleepless hour, each decision you made to keep going, it all built resilience. It all built clarity. The hurt doesn't define you. The lies don't define you. The people who failed you don't define you. And then you confront yourself. Not your past self, not the one who left home. The one sitting in your chair right now. You ask the questions you avoided for years. What do you want? What matters? What can you control? The answers aren't flashy or immediate. They're quiet, precise. They point to honesty. They point to boundaries. They point to self-respect. Closure, you finally understand, is not a gift someone else gives. It isn't found in apologies that never come. It isn't found in excuses or promises. It lives in truth, acknowledgement, awareness, and the willingness to see events for what they really were. And tonight, for the first time, you accept that truth fully. You don't need anyone else to validate your pain. You don't need anyone else to recognize your endurance. You already carry it within you. You think about your family, the house, the dinners, the stage conversations, the confessions, the silences, the heartbreak, and the release. And you realize none of that can follow you forward unless you let it. You're free to take only what matters. The lessons, the resilience, the understanding. Everything else, the blame, the lies, the fear, can stay behind. And as you sit in this quiet, something shifts. Your thoughts turn to your future, not with fear, not with longing, but with purpose. You make small plans, careful steps rooted in honesty. You consider paths that honor your worth without apology. You imagine work, life, friendships, love, all grounded in respect for yourself, all free from needing approval from those who failed you. For the first time in years, you don't feel like you're carrying anyone else's expectations or guilt. You feel rooted, solid, balanced. You are no longer running from the past, nor clinging to it. You are simply standing within your own life, fully present, fully accountable to yourself. The quiet stretches around you, not as emptiness, but as space. Space to breathe, space to think, space to grow. And in that space, you find a kind of peace that isn't loud or triumphant, but steady, unshakable, and entirely your own. And finally, you tell yourself, softly, firmly, without doubt, that you are allowed to live unburdened, that you are allowed to forgive yourself, that you are allowed to step forward, carrying only the truths that strengthen you, and leave everything else behind. This is the quiet after the storm, and it is enough. You sit at the desk, the pen heavy in your hand, the paper empty and waiting. And for the first time in years, you don't hesitate. You don't worry about tone, about being polite, about softening words to keep someone else comfortable. You write as if the page is the only witness to everything you've carried. Anger, confusion, loneliness, the nights you questioned your worth, the moments you blamed yourself for what wasn't yours to bear. Each sentence feels like a release. You don't stop to edit or filter. You don't pause to reconsider whether they will understand or approve. You write for you. Every memory that once tightened around your chest loosens with each word. Every question you asked yourself, every accusation you swallowed, every silence you endured, they all find a place on this page. And for the first time, they belong entirely to you. You stop midway to breathe, and in that pause, you realize something profound. You don't need anyone to read this. You don't need approval, apology, or acknowledgement. Their validation no longer matters. The truth, which you feared for so long, didn't break you. It freed you. It untangled the knots in your chest and handed you back the space to exist without someone else's shadow over your life. You continue writing, your hand steady now, your mind clear. You tell them everything you once wanted to say, the hurt, the betrayal, the long years of silence, the pain of being blamed for what wasn't yours. You write of their fear, their weakness, their choices. You write of yourself, of the person who survived it all, of the strength you discovered when no one else would stand for you. And though the words are sharp at times, they carry no bitterness, only honesty. By the time you set the pen down, the letter is full, thick with truth, heavy, yet lighter than the burden you've been carrying for decades. You read it once, slowly, and you feel a quiet smile form on your lips, not of triumph over them, but of recognition of yourself. You never send it. You don't need to. The act of writing, of naming the story as yours, has already done what no conversation could. It has returned your power, your clarity, and your peace. You fold the letter carefully, place it aside, and stand. The room feels different now. The walls aren't shrinking. The memories aren't pressing. The past is still there, yes, but it no longer dictates your steps. You're no longer the family scapegoat. You're no longer defined by their fears, their lies, their avoidance. You are your own person, fully present, fully accountable to yourself, and fully free to choose the life you deserve. You look out the window at the rising sun of the new year, the first light spilling across the horizon like a promise. And in that light, you see yourself clearly. Not the version who left years ago, confused and wounded. Not the version who returned, cautious and mistrustful. But the person who remains now, whole, steady, and unbroken. Your heart feels lighter than it has in years, and your breath comes deep and easy. You realize that what you once thought would shatter you, the truth, wasn't a weapon at all. It was preparation. Preparation to step fully into your own life, to claim space that is entirely yours, to honor your own resilience. You walk to the door, the world outside awake and bright. You don't hesitate. You don't look back. And as you step forward, you feel the weight of the past settle behind you, no longer dragging, no longer binding. You weren't ready for the truth that night. You couldn't have been, but you were ready for yourself. And that readiness, steady, quiet, and undeniable, is everything.